Talks, episodes of horror with Donna and Eric. I'm Donna.
And I'm Eric.
And continuing on with Texas Author Con author interviews, we have with us today Megan Stockton. Welcome back, Megan.
Thank you. Happy to be back.
Yeah, it's good to see you again. We just saw you at Scares That Care
Yep.
last month, so it was good to see you. Although I feel like I didn't see you much because I actually stayed at my table. So,
I was gonna say, but you guys were near each other. I mean, you could have
oh
snuck
yeah,
a
that's right, because you
thing
shared
over.
with Caleb. You were just a couple of tables down. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she
So,
was avoiding you on purpose.
no, never.
No.
Never, never. Um, so yeah, we're gonna just ask some fun icebreaker questions, and our first one is, what's your favorite Universal monster?
Oh my goodness. Um, Probably the Wolfman, I guess.
All right, good choice, good choice.
It's hard
It is
because
tough.
you could easily make a case for almost all of them.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, really.
Yeah, I
You know,
agree.
it's weird though, and I don't think we've discussed this, and we didn't discuss it when you and I did it, Donna. But out of all of them, though, there's a bigger Frankenstein following. Like if somebody likes Frankenstein, they don't hesitate. It's Frankenstein, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
everything is Frankenstein. But then if you have any other thoughts about it, then I think you're wishy-washy.
Hmm.
You don't get that same kind of love for Dracula or any of the other. But if somebody's a Frankenstein fan, it'll be interesting to see if anybody comes up with Frankenstein.
Yeah.
We've only done a couple of these, so we
Yeah.
haven't had Frankenstein yet.
Yeah. So I think what maybe is Frankenstein is just Frankenstein no matter what you're watching or reading. If you're reading the book, if you're reading watching movies, Dracula though has kind of like morphed into just basically vampires.
Yeah,
You know, Dracula is vampire, and there's hundreds of books about vampires, hundreds of movies about vampires. So Dracula's kind of become generic in my mind a little
Mhm.
bit. But Frankenstein, it's just Frankenstein,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
And
He's
the
like the
Wolfman, yeah, the Wolfman is yes, there are a lot of werewolf stuff, but the Wolfman um is like the first
he's
that people
iconic in the sense
he's
that
like,
of the
yeah,
of the way he becomes the Wolf Man, the way he is.
yeah,
He doesn't transform into a full wolf. He's still walking around with clothes.
Yeah, there
yeah.
really aren't that many like bipedal werewolves,
Yeah.
I mean, really at all. So, and
Not until the aughts.
yeah,
You got some in the aughts with
yeah,
dog soldiers and stuff, but
yeah,
you're traditional. You're right. They always turn into
yeah.
wolves. So
Yeah.
So,
And then also with the bipedal werewolves, like you don't get a lot wearing clothes. The only other bipedal werewolf that I can remember that wear clothes is Teen Wolf.
yeah,
yeah.
what's the one with the sheriff that turns into the wolf? He still has his like uniform on, doesn't he? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like really cheesy.
Oh, Wolf Cop.
Is that, yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
Wolf Cop.
probably
Yeah, that
Wolf
one's
Cop.
cool.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Yeah, yeah, you're right. He does
Yeah.
get to keep, but that one is leaning into the fun of it. So,
Yes.
The
but
cheese.
traditional horror, yeah.
Lots of cheese.
So, um, yeah, I mean, Creature from Black Lagoon is very specific. But even the mummy's so generic. I mean, it is
Yeah,
a specific mummy, but in our heads, you never think of the actual character that the mummy's based off of. You just think of a mummy. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Who the
but yeah,
mummy
I can get
used
that,
to
and
be. Yeah.
and it's been around for how long? Now we're talking 100 years, so almost 100 years. So I can see how some of that just kind of just phased into its own thing. But yeah, Frankenstein is his own.
Yeah.
There's no imitating Frankenstein.
Mhm.
Yeah. So fast zombies or slow zombies?
Um, Now for like my like watching pleasure, fast zombies, but if I'm gonna have to like encounter them, we'll go Romero zombies the whole time.
Yeah, I don't want to have to do cardio.
No,
Yeah,
there's
no, no, no. Because you figure you're probably like lacking in nutrition because it's the apocalypse and you can't get, the stores are all closed and
I don't even know that I would try, you know?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I'm with you there. Do you enjoy zombie stuff?
yeah, I do. I actually like, I mean, I like all the zombie stuff really. I just I really do prefer like the kind of the modern fast zombie because it's scarier
Hmm.
to me, you know. But I love the classic zombie films too, where it's more, kind of just stumbling around.
Yeah, I think it's like werewolves, you're
Yeah.
it's pretty cool either way. But
Yeah.
I do like when they do a twist on it, which of course that was the main twist. I'm shocked that nobody thought of it until, recently that they
Yeah.
could actually like run.
Yeah.
Although technically I mean, in a way they kind of did, because if you watch Return of the Living Dead,
Mhm.
they're smart. The guy's
Yeah.
on the phone calling them in,
Yeah.
send more paramedics so they
Yeah.
have more people to eat and stuff.
Yeah.
So they're very smart in that aspect. But it makes sense that they're decaying and falling apart, so they couldn't run. But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, you're not. World War Z would suck if those were slow zombies.
Yeah.
And 28
That's-
days later, even though they're not zombies, it's still a zombie kind of thing. And
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I think that's an interesting storyline. And I don't know if it's a joke or not, but they're talking about doing another one, right?
28 years later or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
which would be very interesting to see what
Yeah.
characters they bring back and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
All
Because
right.
I
Do
think
you
the
have
second one's really good. Have you ever seen the second one?
Yeah. Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. You watch movies constantly. I don't know.
All the time.
What about Donna? Have you watched it? Have you watched
no,
28 Weeks? Have you seen
no.
28? But you've seen 28 Days, right?
Some of it.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
So we have an assignment. We're gonna have
Yep.
to watch both of those and talk about it, because they're it's interesting to watch 28 Days Later and compare it to how society is taking care of the problem 28 weeks into it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so it's really clever, and a lot of good actors in the second movie too.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite zombie movie?
Oh gosh. That's tough because you think of your classics, of course. But I think there's been some really good ones recently. Train to Busan is terrifying and like cinematically beautiful. Love, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but
I know what it is, but yeah, no,
yeah,
I have not seen it.
it's one of the best zombie movies I'd seen in a long time. Like it's very and they're fast zombies, but the choreography and everything, like it was beautiful. I really liked it.
And it's
Uh,
South Korean, right?
yes,
Yeah, so
and I
South
mean
Korea is pumping out some pretty cool stuff the last 10 years or
excellent
so.
cinema. Like I mean, it is amazing, and I really do like Zack Snyder's.
Right?
I love it.
It's a
I
it's
think
a it's a perfect remake,
it,
even
it,
if it
it
is
it's
a
so
mere
good.
remake. I mean, a lot of it you can kind of see he's
Yeah,
just doing it.
yeah,
But the acting and just the modern spin that he puts on the cinematography and all that stuff,
yeah,
and it's just a cleaner,
yeah,
scarier,
yeah.
because I mean I love the old Ramirez stuff, but
Oh yeah,
I
me
don't
too.
think any of us would ever confuse him for a great director. Like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
I know.
what I'm
I
trying
get
to
what
say.
you're
He's
saying.
not Kubrick or anything like that.
Yeah.
He's not going to be the guy but he tells a good story, and he
Yes, yeah,
captures it on and he captures it on film.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
don't think he is great at all the things that make you a great director, which I'm probably about. I probably just canceled myself with a large group of viewers, but and I enjoy all those movies, and I enjoy all
yeah.
watching all his stuff. Monkey Shines,
Mhm.
I enjoyed that. He did that, didn't he? And Creep Show is great, but boy, he's very, and maybe that's part of his charm, and maybe that's what he was doing on purpose. I haven't really done a deep dive on him as a director,
Yeah,
but if I compare him to the slickness of Snyder, and that's got him in trouble recently,
Mhm.
Snyder, because everybody's tired of how slick everything is. There's
I,
no
I
there's no
I honestly
substance.
love the way everything, like how everything's oversaturated that he does and everything. Like I actually like the look of.
See, and I do too, but everybody online
I know,
complains
yeah.
about how
No,
there's.
everybody bitches about him, but I actually really I like
I was a
everything.
big fan of Sucker Punch. It's Sucker
He
Punch,
did
right?
Sucker Punch. Love
Yeah,
Sucker
I
Punch.
love Sucker Punch, but
Yeah.
boy, you would think it was the worst thing ever made.
Oh
And
no, I
and
love
I
it.
love his Justice League stuff.
I did
It's
too. I
the
watched the
cleanest
Snyder
cut.
cut. I sat there through that whole the
Yes.
whole thing.
So yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. That should be, if it's not a top three, it's got to be a top three, if
Yeah.
not higher. Well, if you were to just break everything down, mostly because most zombie movies are low budget, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so when you give a director with some style and some money,
Yeah.
they should blow it out of the water, and Snyder does. And I
Yeah.
think because of that is why you see him get the projects he does initially, and then they grow and grow and grow. And now
Yeah.
he's almost his own. He's Michael Bay in a way, where
Yeah.
everybody makes fun of him and hates him, but then everybody sees what he does.
Yeah. Yeah.
So sorry,
Now,
didn't mean to take over.
no, 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 you're fine. So while we're on the subject of zombies, um, what do you think is more effective in evoking a response for zombies? Reading a zombie book or watching a zombie movie? And I know they're two different media formats. Um, but
Um,
do you feel the same reading a zombie book as have you read any zombie books? And would you do you get the same feeling as if you were watching a zombie movie?
I have admittedly not read a ton of zombie books. I would like to. I read a bunch of the Walking Dead graphic novels.
Hmm.
Obviously, not all of them, but several. And then I also read Crossed as Zombies, right? Is that what I'm thinking of? Another, it was another graphic novel. But then again, that's also kind of a visual media, I guess,
Yeah,
because
Yeah.
yeah.
but I guess you still have the, you know, the storytelling there, I guess. But honestly, I can't think of any off the top of my head that I have read other than World War Z.
And
But it has that,
that's not traditional literature
no, it
in
has a
any
weird
way.
narrative device, the
Yeah,
way
it's
that it's
all
told.
journals, right? Journal entries and stuff.
Yeah, because he's like it's been so long. Is he a journalist or is he like a research medical researcher? I can't remember.
You know what? I can't either. It has been a long
And
time.
I
But
didn't love it.
yeah, I didn't like the format. The
Well, see,
format is
I normally do like unique narrative devices and stuff like that, but I did not like that. Like I'm all about that normally.
I don't mind it if the person knows what they're doing, but
Yeah.
occasionally, so maybe I just don't like the way he does it. But
And I guess of course I read Dead Blood, which is also not your traditional like
Uh,
zombie
Jay
story.
Bauer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of like interesting narrative devices, he kind of did that with Cadaverous, and that was well executed. But I
Yeah,
can't think of it.
Cadaverous was great.
Oh, I love it. It's probably my favorite of his, I think. It's very, very good. But I can't think of any, so probably not a good answer to that question.
when
I
I
really
can,
need to try and read more.
yeah, I mean, Meryl's got a 5, 6 book set. I think the last book's coming out pretty soon. And Jamie Hernandez, she's really big into zombie
Yeah.
stuff, but I think she actually pulled out of Texas AuthorCon, so she won't be here this year. But she has tons of stuff on Kindle Unlimited and all that. I want to go jump back to the Walking Dead. You read them, but even reading them, you don't get the same sense of terror that you do watching it on the camera.
Yeah.
The the reason I think the Walking Dead graphic novels work is because you connect with the human characters and you're
Yes.
horrified by the human interactions. But
Exactly.
I can't ever think of a time where I thought, oh no, there's zombies. But when you see
Right.
a horde on film coming towards you on the television screen, then you're like, oh, that's insurmountable. How are
Yeah.
they going to get away? You can then kind of feel the and you're being manipulated, of course, by the director and all that, which you don't get with the written word, is because often we tell a story, but some of the things that we're doing is to allow the reader to make these pictures in their head, and so then I think it may not work as easily with the zombie.
It's interesting because, and I'll send this to you guys when we're done with this. I tried to write a zombie novel once, and I only wrote the first two chapters. So I did like almost like a prologue, like
Hmm.
setup for the world, and it was an alternative 1930s
Oh, that's
setting,
Oh,
cool.
cool.
and I had the hardest time with the atmosphere, and I kind of think that that was part of it. And they were fast zombies. But it was like I said, it's alternative history, so it was tied into World War II and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
And that makes it difficult too, because then you're looking at all of the stuff you have to know to
That
write just to that.
reminded me of a kind of zombie film though that I really enjoyed, Overlord.
Oh
Um,
yeah, Overlord is very fun. That is really
Very
cool.
good, very
Yes. Have you
good.
seen that one?
No.
Okay, it's
Now put that at
World
the
War
top of your
II.
your top of your
It's
list.
like in France,
Yeah,
and the Allies are coming to rescue somebody or to stop the Nazis from doing something like that. Nazis are in the town, Allies come in, and then it is really. I
okay,
mean, it's zombie, but it's got other aspects. It's just
yeah.
fun.
So that's a
Yeah,
good one. But
that's a
yeah,
great one. That one always
that
sneaks by because you don't think about it because it came out. It feels like it came out in a dead period. I
I
don't
don't
think.
know what the deal was. It was not. It didn't get the attention that I felt like it deserved.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and I mean, it didn't. It had very few faults. Like it was well acted, and it was well.
The new captain, not Anthony Mackie, but the other captain, the guy who became Captain America in the show that they eventually are going to make U.S. agent in the Marvel. He's in it. I can't think of his name. Blonde haired guy. Do you
Yeah,
watch the Marvel stuff? Donna's like, I only watch as Mandalorian, so I don't know what y'all are talking
No,
about.
I watch Marvel. I'm big into the Marvel universe.
Did you watch the what was it? Winter Falcon and
Winter
Winter
With
Soldier?
Soldier
yeah,
or
So you know
yeah,
that guy the government tried to make
hmm
Captain America.
yeah.
He's actually in the movie. He's great in it too. He's a really good actor. I hate him in Marvel because I hate that character, um but he's so underrated. Anything he's in, he's really good no matter what he's doing. I've seen him in three or four different films where he just completely just almost steals the movie.
and it's also got is it got Kurt Russell's son in it? Is that the same guy?
Oh my gosh, I bet you it's the same guy. Yeah, it's Kurt. That's why he's so good. It's Kurt Russell's son.
Okay.
That's exactly his name's like
Yes.
Wyatt Russell or something like
I don't
that.
remember his name, but I knew he was somebody's son, and I was like, was it him or was it
I have a feeling that's it, and that's why he's so charismatic, and you're like, oh, okay, well that makes more sense. It's not just some hillbilly off of train. So,
yeah,
but
I
yeah, no,
definitely
he's really good. It's a fun movie, and again, it's modern, and I love special effects from the old days. But when you can incorporate somebody who knows what they're doing now and a little
yeah,
splash of CGI done correctly, you can get some really cool stuff. And I think that movie has really good effects.
it was very good.
So tell us, what is your or do you have a favorite cryptid or creature?
Oh, these are tough questions because
I
I'm
know
indecisive.
we did it. I forgot the questions, and we did it last week where her and I just talked. And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh man, these." I said, "I don't know what I'm thinking. These are all terrible," because you really have to think if you're not ready for it.
Well, obviously, I do really like werewolves, all types of werewolves, of course. I really like the Mothman,
Hmm.
but and I mean, I like the traditional like lore that goes with him, but I also just like I wish more people would take it and just kind of run with it and do other things with it.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it, but I'm trying to. I don't know. There's so many weird. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to put your own spin on it.
Yeah, yeah. I did a short story. Um, it was originally in Cryptid Carnage, that
Mhm.
Splatter Inc.
Yep.
Publishing's thing.
Yeah,
And it was a Mothman story set on Christmas, and a little boy and his mom get carjacked, and he actually befriends the Mothman or a Mothman. And I set it on a bridge, but otherwise, you don't really get a whole lot of like information,
hmm
about him. And I really enjoyed it. And I'm like, man, I want to read like more. And I couldn't really find a whole lot. There was a couple,
that's the other problem. There's not a ton of just lore. It's the
yeah.
same story over and over, and
So it
the
was,
movie covers a lot of it. If you've seen the movie,
yeah, the Mothman
cometh.
Prophecies.
Oh, prophecies.
prophecies.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if it's Chronicles or but yeah, that so Mothman, I wish I saw more of. Um, and my favorite, of course, I've said this before, and I'm not just, fluffing your ego, but as far as like in recent print, the Poplick Massacre is one of my favorite like cryptid
Uh,
books. I mean, seriously, because I really think you
check is
took
in the mail.
thank you. I really do feel like you took that cryptid that nobody, I mean, you've heard of it,
Hmm.
especially if you live in this general area, Kentucky, Tennessee. But like nobody's ever done anything with it. And I feel like it's yours, really,
Oh,
honestly.
that's nice to hear.
I
So
mean, really, though, it's excellent. Um, but yeah, I mean, I love cryptids in
I'd
general.
like to go back to
Yeah.
something you said initially because
Mhm.
the somebody we just talked to a week ago, I think, maybe 2 weeks ago, said the same thing. They said werewolf.
Yeah.
Remember, and Donna and I, we were like, do we consider werewolves, or are they their own thing, or are they cryptids? But yeah, no, I think that's cool. You're the second person to say werewolf, so maybe now we're going to start throwing them in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess they're not technically cryptids, just like
Yeah,
would
but
be like
why
a creature.
wouldn't they be? Like,
Because
Traditionally, I guess they were,
yeah.
yeah,
like
maybe
lycanthropes.
is it because they can change back into humans, and that takes that out of it?
I
Because all the
almost
other cryptids are that's what they are 24/7.
Well, and I almost feel like cryptids we think of as things that we want to believe are out there.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
that's totally yeah,
I
that's
think
fair.
Yeah.
now we like we give like the attribute of this is like a movie monster to werewolves, which isn't fair because traditionally, people really were afraid that,
Oh yeah, yeah.
so I think they should keep their cryptid status.
But then do we then could we slide aliens into the cryptid?
I
Yeah.
mean,
Because
absolutely.
yeah, which would
Yeah, I
be an
mean,
interesting thing. Wouldn't that be fun? A nice mashup of some cryptids and aliens all
yeah,
together.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
Or the
Yeah.
cryptid is an alien.
Mhm.
Yeah. As we just
Sasqu
slowly,
Sasquatch from outer space, man.
Yeah, that's
that would be
Chewy.
cool. All right. Now we're giving people ideas. So we're going to have to delay this episode. And
Yeah,
everybody has to write their cryptid tale and then we can get this out. But
yeah.
no, but I think it's a fun topic. Cryptids are cool.
Well, so now this is going to be a really hard question. Which one of your projects would you like to see made into a movie?
Oh, um, honestly, maybe my newest one, Lovely Dark and Deep. That might be the one that I would like to see most. I think it would lend itself to being cinematic really easily.
Hmm.
And it's kind of, the atmosphere is very bleak and gray and dark, and you got like your, coastal setting or your island setting. So I would, yeah, that would probably be the one if I could pick one. That would be what I'd pick.
Kittle
Nice.
enjoyed it.
Nah, yeah,
Kittle really enjoyed it.
delicious.
Yeah.
Cover to cover.
I didn't post it on Facebook. I don't know if Donna knows. Kittle got a hold of the. Actually, it
Oh,
wasn't Kittle. It was Totoro. So Totoro loved it.
oh no.
She knocked down all the books from Scares, dug through it till she found Megan's, and ate it.
Oh
So
my gosh.
I was like,
Oh.
oh, because I was,
Oh.
it's like I was ready to dive back into it. I was, I'm gonna have to send it to my Kindle again. So
Um, so do you have a preference between science fiction and fantasy?
I love both. That's also super tough. Because so horror obviously is probably my first love, but right up there with it's just like your high fantasy. Like I read a
mhm.
lot of fantasy, and I did as a kid too. Like that was one of my like, right up there with horror reasons I wanted to write, myself. But I really love science fiction too. Anything dystopian, anything space. I mean, all of that stuff.
And do
So
you like it when it's sort of like it's factual science fiction, where they don't try and blur it, or do you kind of like it when it's a little more fantastical?
I don't mind. Um, Either way, I'm not one of those people. I can really suspend belief when I'm reading. I'm not
Hmm.
going to pick apart even like medical stuff that like I know that's not how that goes, or I know that's not what that's going to look like. Because in horror, a lot of time like wounds are really unrealistic, and I write them unrealistic because it's more fun. You
Right.
know, I don't care as far as that goes, and as far as like science fiction stuff, it being very, technically accurate, I don't mind either way. Um, if it feels technical when you're reading it, like I'm reading a manual or something, and like the language is very stiff, I don't like that.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but
I have a
Yeah.
friend who's a physics major, and he's very critical of
yeah,
stuff. It's not,
yeah,
mostly movies and stuff. But I do know a lot. And like me, I'm very easygoing. Is it
yeah.
a good story? Throw me into it. I don't care. So
Exactly. I just want to enjoy it, and it's like it'd be like watching a B horror film. Like there are not buckets of blood.
see, and that's the other thing I think that we as our age group and you know, how we grew up is
Yeah,
that we were introduced to all these wonderful B movie, science
yeah,
fiction, fantasy, horror all together.
yeah,
And so we are allowed to, or we allow ourselves to suspend disbelief. And because, if I show a movie to my kid,
yeah,
he's way more like picking it apart than
yeah.
just
Like
understanding the fun of it.
right.
And so I feel like a lot of it's been lost in
Yeah,
translation.
and that's probably true, 100%.
Yeah, because kids could totally build a spaceship out of a amusement park ride and go up and meet aliens.
Listen,
Right.
I'm here for
Now, do
Yeah.
you have a favorite fantasy or sci-fi like franchise, book, or movie?
So I was and honestly still am obsessed with the Dragonlance novels.
Oh, so good.
I have honestly, I may have 100 of them. Like they're everywhere on my bookshelf. But so I used to just like devour those. I was born in the 90s, and I think a majority of like the chronicles and stuff were published in like the 80s.
That is so insane.
So I
Yeah.
had so many, and I
I'm
just
take
like,
I was I'm taking back everything I just said about us being the same age, watching the same stuff and all that. Never
but
mind.
I did watch the same stuff.
I know, amazingly, your parents must have loved you. That's what I always say to Dawn when my wife is like, I didn't see this. I'll be like, did your parents not love you? Did not sit you down and show you these things? But
But yes, I had this backlog once I started reading,
yes.
and so there were so many. Like I could, and actually as an adult, they released a couple of um the same duo,
Hmm.
Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman or whatever. I don't know how to say the
Yeah.
last
I
name.
think you hit it.
So like they released two, I think two series just in the last like 15 years or something, and I was so excited. But I like blew through the first one and then I had to wait a whole year for the second one, and I'm like,
Can't
nah.
stand it. Can't do that
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah. No, Robert Jordan always, may always makes me worried, we get
Yeah.
another Jordan situation. I'm like,
Yeah.
so, but, yeah, did you read her series, right after Dragonlance, after when it got really big and they were having other writers do all the stuff. She had another series, I think it was called like Dragon Heart or something like that. It was like a
Um,
trilogy. I'll have to dig through my books and see if I can find it, but it was
I
like in the 90s.
I read the Dragon Ships one or whatever that I think she
Yeah.
did by herself. That was later though, I think in like the mid 2000s, I guess.
That's the funny thing too. By that time I had stopped reading fantasy pretty much other than
Ugh.
Jordan.
See, I like yearn for it. Like I don't find as much
Well,
now
I
that I
look for
like.
good fantasy, but I rarely find it. That's why I kind of slowed down.
But listen, I even read like your romantasy, your like smutty fantasy
Mhm.
sometimes. Like some of it's like I actually really liked Fourth Wing. Everybody talked about it, and I have a friend who's big into that stuff, and she's like, "Please read it with me." And I'm like, "Look, if this is another A Court of Thorns and Roses, I'm going to kill you because I hated that series. I'm still going to
Mhm.
read the next one when it comes out, but I didn't love it." But so I read Fourth Wing, and I loved like the world. The
Mhm.
writing is like, you know, but I loved like the world and like everything she had set up, and it kind of gave me a little hope. So I've been digging for some like modern fantasy. I did read The Shadow of the Gods or whatever. Can't remember the guy's name that wrote it. It was very
Oh
good.
man, is it like I know
Last
what
name's
you're
like
talking about.
Gawain or something. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
I think I know what you're talking about.
I liked it, and then I read Orcs, and I really liked it.
Yeah, I've got Orcs on the shelf.
I liked it too. So I've found a couple of that I like, but they still just don't have that, and that's probably just like that spark of like adolescence
And
when you
I was
like,
gonna say I hate to see, we're
you
never gonna
know,
capture it again. As
yeah,
children, when we read these, they're so amazing
yeah,
and fresh and new. And I can see kind of why some people fall out of love with them pretty quickly,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Last Unicorn,
Mhm.
Oh,
Lord of the Rings,
Oh,
all
Lord of the
those.
Rings,
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
Lord of the Rings, I didn't get it. Reading it is boring. Some of, a lot of detail, but it's its own thing. And without Lord of the Rings, we wouldn't have all these other ones. So
Actually,
I gotta
I read Lord of the Rings in elementary school, and I actually loved it.
see, I love The Hobbit. The Hobbit to
Yeah,
me is perfect.
The Hobbit was more fun for
Yeah.
sure.
But I appreciate and enjoy the Lord of the Rings, but I understand why people hate it and dog on it.
And
And
I read Game of Thrones, like the first book, in
yeah, I read the
also in
first
elementary
two
school.
and a half.
And I was too young to read it. I was too young
Yeah.
to read any of them really when I read them, but that one for sure. So it was a little more graphic. But it
Not only
felt
that, it was so political.
I was
If
about to say
you're,
it felt too historical, which I guess
yeah.
it is. Isn't it like a direct
Oh, I'm
almost
sure it's mirroring
of
something.
War of the Roses or
Yeah, I was
something?
gonna say the War of the Roses. Yeah.
Yeah, so it I read it later on when I was a little bit older and got through it and could enjoy the characters and stuff, but as a young person, it wasn't that fun thing that I wanted.
Yeah, I think after about the third book, I was kind of done, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's cool. I don't need to read anymore. Plus, he hasn't finished it, so it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
yeah. He'll
yes,
come out with a
that
new
would
one.
just make me mad if I read all those books and just
Oh, it's
got.
worse because people ask him all the time, and he's always like, "Oh, it's almost done," or "I'm working on it," or and you can tell he's not. He
Yeah.
he does not care. It is not going to be finished. You know what'll happen is he'll die, and somebody will
Yep.
release that last three-fourths of a manuscript, and they may do a pass or they may not, and so then everybody's going to hate that, and they'll just crap on his memory because of it. But
Yep.
what's your favorite science fiction novel?
Oh gosh. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
That's it right there. That's the best one. Love that.
Um, I
Well, you're
like
just knocking them out of the park today.
honestly, I like all of those books from that time period.
Hmm.
Um, I used to collect when I was like I'm talking like I was probably like between 10 and 13. I collected the magazines. I can't remember what they were called.
Starts with an
Um,
A, right? Like
what?
Asimov's magazine or something like that, some
I
science
can't remember.
magazine.
I've still got some of them in boxes because, but I know like they did like they published I Have No Mouth but I'm a Scream in one issue, and then there was like a boy and his dog and a couple of others, and I loved that stuff. Of course, like leaning into the dystopian
Hmm.
stuff, and I really liked that. And I that was another thing that I just like consumed everything I could get a hold of. So,
Yeah, I think it's funny. I think if you go back and look at a lot of that stuff that was written in the 70s and 80s, they were leaning into it because of the Cold War, and they were
yeah.
just expecting it to happen at any
Yeah,
moment, and
yeah.
they were just feeding off of it and just pumping out stories.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see some of the stuff that they came up with. I love Philip K. Dick because he's like Richard Lehman. He takes these ideas and stories that you say, well, that won't work,
Mm-hmm.
and then he writes it, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, that totally works
Oh yeah.
because he knows
Yeah.
what he's doing. And I get why people don't like him too, because he's a little off the rocker sometimes.
Yeah.
But I do, yeah. I can't think of anything he's written that I walked away from thinking that was terrible. But Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, I just
Yeah.
think is a really good read, and just different enough from Blade Runner where you can just love both of them for what
Yeah.
they are and not really have to compare them.
And I actually liked the Heinlein stuff too. I know a lot of people don't. Um, he did Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers, that guy.
And what's the other one?
I'm gonna be honest, I hated Starship Troopers.
Well, the other one is even more
I
over the top. Something Worlds. I've got it in there on my shelf. I actually have a
Yeah.
really pretty special edition of both of them.
Ooh, that's cool. I'd like to
Um,
see that. Starship Troopers. The reason I was disappointed with Starship Troopers, I read it after the movie, and
yeah,
they're just different.
yeah, the
And
vibe and everything, like
yeah,
what you would imagine the aesthetic would be like. I mean,
yeah, and they're not the guy that does Starship Troopers, the movies, the guy that did RoboCop,
mm-mm.
and that those he did something else that was really big, and I can't think of what it is.
Well, he
But
took that concept, I feel like, and put his brain. He made it his
he
brain.
wanted to
You know?
put that Nazi spin on it, that
Yeah,
fascist United States corporation spin on everything that he
yeah,
always is putting in every movie he does. So, um, and turns it into a totally different thing where while you think you're cheering for the good guys, you're actually cheering for the bad guys
yeah,
for the whole movie because the bugs are, the
yeah.
victims in that thing. So, but it's got a ton of decapitations, and I'm a big fan of that, especially back in the day when it wasn't so easy to do. I know they CGI'd a lot, those, but boy, you give me a movie from the 70s or 80s where they have a decapitation, it'd be the worst thing ever, and I'd be like, A plus, look at that. I mean, they did that. So, but yeah, they have a ton of them in Starship. It's great. So, tie it back into the horror roots.
A for decapitations.
I was always fascinated, like how they do that, as a kid, because you see stuff way too early, and then you're like, well.
Oh yeah.
So we have two of your books here. I just grabbed two, and Lovely Dark and Deep is your most recent release. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
I love the cover.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's Dagon Boy. Both of those are.
And I enjoyed the first chapter, which I have read before the book was destroyed, and I will let you know later on the rest. Now, when the movie question came up, my first thought is, and nobody knows it but me, because I feel like that could be a really good movie.
So, it's interesting that you say that. I haven't said anything about this publicly because these things never pan out, but I actually signed an option for And Nobody Knows It But Me in January.
That's sweet.
Oh,
Congratulations.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Congrats.
Of course, that was before Lovely Dark and Deep was released, and the guy actually came to me because he had read Blue Jay, and then he read And Nobody Knows It But Me over Christmas. So those things never work out. So that's the reason I've not really said anything to anybody, but he felt like it would make a very good film.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
It plays well.
Yeah.
Nice.
You did a very good job with that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, do you have any new projects you're working on?
Oh yeah. Um, it's a terrible, terrible question. But it keeps me honest though. So I am a creature of chaos and have to work on like multiple things at a time. That way I could write more. So if I'm like tired of something,
Hmm.
I can like jump into a different project. So um I am primarily working on Gumdrop, which is like a haunted house ghost story type deal. So it'll just be very atmospheric, kind of quiet horror type deal. That'll probably be my next release, other than the extreme horror thing that DNT is releasing in June or July. Can't remember. And then I am working on a series of like animal survival or animal attack novellas. So I'm working on the ape one right now.
Ooh,
And it's been so much fun.
Yeah, they sounded really interesting.
Yeah, if I can like pull them off, they'll be loads of fun. And then I'm working on just like a seedy, um, kind of extreme thriller-ish thing called Pink Neon, and it'll be a novella too, so it may beat Gumdrop. I'm not sure, but just whatever I get done with first. So
You
one of
think
those.
you'll
awesome.
have you think you have copies of the D&T thing for AuthorCon?
It's I can't remember the date she told me, so it's gonna be tight.
But if you
Uh,
don't have it, you'll definitely have it for TBR.
oh yeah, 100%. I'm thinking that this same thing happened when they set up the release for Blue Jay before Scares That Care,
Hmm.
and I got the books like the day before we left. So I feel like I looked at it and it was going to be very tight for Texas too, and
Okay.
I think I can get my copies. So we'll see.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Awesome. So, why don't you? I know this is an episode for Texas AuthorCon and Book Festival, but just tell us a little bit about TBR Con.
So it is September 6th and 7th in Knoxville, Tennessee at the Knoxville Expo Center in Hall A, and it's an all genres event. It's primarily horror, honestly. But we've got a pretty good spread of romance and fantasy slash science fiction authors and stuff like that. Um, Children under 14 are free, and they can, while supplies last, get a free children's book from the table. They can go in and pick one out and get a little goodie bag. And we should have bags for the first like 200 people, adults at the door too. So,
Nice.
and it's $10 to get in, or if you pre-order tickets on Eventbrite, you pay $13 and you can get in both days. And it enters you into a door prize where you could win either $100 Amazon gift card, a signed hardcover of Fourth Wing, or a signed hardcover first edition of Joe Hill's The Fireman.
Sweet.
So,
Great. Yeah.
And
So
we'll both be there in case anybody
yeah,
cares, and
yeah,
and other folks. So
yeah.
if you miss us at Texas AuthorCon, or if you can't make the trip, then some of the authors that'll be at Texas AuthorCon will be at the other one.
Yeah. And
But
what Megan neglected to say was she is the one that came up with the idea for TBR Con
ugh,
and is organizing it with, I know you have help with it, but you are the mastermind behind it. So,
well, I didn't
um,
want to claim it until it's over and see how it goes.
right.
okay, sorry, my bad.
That's fine.
All right. So, besides Texas AuthorCon and TBR Con, where can people find your books?
MeganStocktonBooks.com. I have a online store there, so they can hop on and order all the stuff, all the merch and t-shirts and fun stuff's on there, and you can get them signed, or you can just message me directly if you have trouble navigating the site. I'm on all the platforms except Twitter or X or whatever. I'm on there, but I'm not on there. Like I have an account
Right.
still, but I don't
Yeah.
know. The, yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on again. It was a pleasure. It's always great to talk with you.
Well, thank you.
Um, and we'll be seeing you in a few weeks. Well, few weeks, few months.
I mean, honestly, a few weeks, really.
It'll be here before we know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it will be. That's for sure. All right. Well, come out and see us. We'll have a link to the Eventbrite for Texas Author Con and Book Festival. We'll also have a link to TBR Con. Um, and we'll put up a link to Megan's Amazon author page. So, or we'll just put your website instead. People can go and go to your store there. So, yeah, thanks again for joining us, Megan.
Thank you.
Take it easy.